Welcome to Dusk. My name is Zamira and I'm a psychic, I'm a mystic, and an energy worker here to share everything I've learned with you. I'm going to be sharing my research and channelings and stories about what I've experienced in the spiritual realms. Today, I wanted to start this podcast, the birth of this podcast, off with a bang. You guys have no clue with how long I've been wanting to make this happen. I just felt like I had to be prepared in the right mindset and to really come into my own with all of the knowledge that I do have and be ready to share it. And I'm so excited to share everything with you guys, the good, the bad, the dirty. Yeah. Let's start this off with a bang. No pun intended. So I wanted to talk about sexual energy because it's one of the most abused energies in our lifetime. And it's a very huge power source for us as humans. So I want to kind of educate and give an energetic perspective on sex, on how we can utilize it more safely in terms of energetics. Okay, so I'm not going to be talking a lot about the physical stuff, but because of the nature of the topic, obviously, there will be, some not so PG-13 stuff going on in this podcast. This podcast is going to be filled with tips and tricks and energetic practices to really assist you in retaining and utilizing your energy within sex. Obviously, we know about all of these narratives in religion and spirituality preaching abstinence and how important it is. And I do want to talk a little bit about that. And we can see what I'm about to talk about in this podcast play out in society, especially with the what's it called? The manosphere. Those Andrew Tater Tots and all of the weird guys who practice the no jizz practice, so that way you can build up your sexual creative energy and keep your energy away from evil succubus women who have nothing to offer besides sex. Mwahaha! Basically those kind of guys. I kind of wanted to talk about that narrative a bit in terms of an energetic perspective. So that is why I'm going to bring up Ida Craddock. We can kind of set the stage and investigate why is this narrative coming about? Why is this a practice? And what is it all about? And looking at it more from a neutral perspective, look, if you want to do no fap, you can do no fap. No judgment from me, but also let's investigate why. Is it even true, Is it even a practice worth doing? And I'm sure everybody is different, all right? So if you feel like you need to do no fap for personal reasons, of course, do what you need to for your body, but let's snoop more on what the energetic side of that looks like. Ida Craddock. She was an icon from 100 years ago. She was about to become the first female undergraduate of UPenn back in 1882, but she was blocked from the board of trustees at the time from even being admitted. So that's the type of person we're talking about, okay? She was amazing. She was super interested in translating occultish and mystical texts and really trying to understand them. And eventually she started writing her own academic papers and research on making sense of all of this. Eventually, she actually started her own business as a sexual mystical couples therapist, where she serviced couples in Philly and Chicago. So that's really fucking cool. So this lady was an academic student of religious eroticism. And unfortunately, what was her passion became her demise. And unfortunately, she was taken to jail because of her writings, in which she slit her wrists and said that she'd rather die than be thrown in prison for one of her passions. She was called insane, she had a spirit husband, and she was an academic in terms of sexual mysticism. Gotta love her. So she wrote one particular book that I feel called to share because it kind of encapsulates what I was talking about in the beginning of the pod, which is called Psychic Wedlock. Gotta love that fucking name. That's crazy. That's a crazy ass name. So obviously she was very, very interested in learning how to retain your own sexual energy and utilize it as a means to commune with the divine rather than just using it wastefully, or as she would say, masturbatorily. And actually her work was backed up by weird ass people and occultists like Aleister Crowley, however the fuck you say his name, in which he said that her writings was one of the most accurate of the time in terms of sexual energetics, which I think is so funny because he was like dubbed as a sexual fiend and there's no way he was practicing this kind of abstinence or control at all. Also, fuck him, he's a creep. I'm gonna read off the distilled version of what her book was about, Psychic Wedlock. I'm gonna read it off here. There were 3 degrees of initiation that followed you practicing correct energetics. Number 1 was that sexual union was forbidden, except for the distinct purpose of creating a child at a particular time. Love that! Kidding. 2, sex union enjoined in absolute self-control and aspiration to the highest, practically meaning that you self-control at all times. Like you only fuck when you're having a child. That's it. And number 3, community with deity as the third partner in the marital union, which as we know she would love because she had a spirit husband. Her whole deep dive into this piece of work was for the purpose of retaining your own sexual energy and becoming more divine, a very, very mystical topic that has been around for ages. It's super ancient. This is an old practice that's really, really outdated. It's breaking down, and it's not because it's entirely wrong. It's just not sophisticated enough, especially with New Age and everybody who is getting on the spiritual bandwagon nowadays. We have better ways to maintain and enhance our sexual energy. So I want to talk a little bit more about what that is. And I really find that the best way to define it is through yoga and Hinduism. There are these 2 concepts called the Prana and the Kundalini. Prana in yoga represents life force. It's your energy. It flows in and out through your body through the breath. And then there's Kundalini, which is a reference to energy at the base of the spine that is coiled up, and it represents this latent power. It's the potential of this person and can be utilized to increase your potential, which makes a lot of people excited. And that's where we jump into Kundalini awakening, where you can wake this energy up in order to tap into your 100% potential. But a lot of gurus actually do not recommend this because it can be very intense. A lot of times it's a type of spiritual awakening where you're opening up your psychic abilities and you're plugging into the universe's energy rather than having to consume and generate your own. And so that can cause mental issues, a type of psychosis, and it can cause a lot of events in your life to happen that maybe you're not ready for or that you won't be able to handle. So it's not really recommended to wake this energy up just randomly. This is an energy that demands respect and a lot of practice and restraint in order to hone it. But the reason why I really talk about this energy is because a lot of people experience this energy as sexual energy. And I've actually experienced this myself when one day after a really amazing healing, I was practicing a chakra meditation just to kind of do some cleanup work on myself. And as I was going through this meditation, I literally felt like I could, or not that I could, I was orgasming. I know I sound like a crazy bitch. Literally orgasming just from meditation. I was not thinking about anything sexual. My mind was not in that realm. My mind was in the realm of just figuring out what the fuck was going on with my chakras, focusing on each and every one. And I really felt this energy from the bottom of my body rise all the way up to the top through the crown. Now, obviously, what did it feel like? It felt a little different from a physical orgasm, but it was so visceral that I couldn't deny what it was. It was an orgasm, an energetic one. So, yeah, a couple of months later, and I am going through a crazy dark night of the soul right now, doing what I can to tackle limiting beliefs yet again, because we're always waking up in, our spiritual path. It's always a constant cycle of like falling asleep, waking up, falling asleep, integrating, blah, 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 blah. It's constantly like that. But it's good because it's helping me tap into my latent potential. But let's actually talk about what it means whenever we're doing the dirty, whenever we're doing the act, the act of sex. So obviously there is a whole bunch of knowledge around this topic of actually doing the dirty, as we know of, called Tantra, but I do not want to water that subject down at all, so I will not be getting into it. Unfortunately, I will be talking more about energy workings and some other perspectives in the psychic community about what we can do with our sexual energy. But really quickly, if you are interested in Tantra, it's not just about physical sex, but it's about utilizing the masculine and the feminine energies to merge with the divine. Tantra just simply means to weave, to loop, to put together, in reference to looping and putting together and creating a teaching out of many practices and energetic tips and doctrines and whatever. It's a whole body of work that I don't want to water down at this time. I urge you to do your own research on it and make up your own mind on what it means to you. I saw this post on Instagram from a lady named Zarina. Her handle is at Avatar Ananda on Instagram. I don't necessarily agree with all of her work, but some things do pop out at me that I find extremely fascinating. And I saw this one post that really made things click for me in terms of my own experience with sex and being an energy worker. So I'm going to read out her post really quick that I saw, and I'm going to break it down for you to kind of like translate what exactly she's talking about and kind of get into more about what this means on how we should be using our energy and my own perspective on what that looks like. So here's the post. If the sexual energy is not circulating through the heart individually or with another in an intimate act, and when climaxes, it leaks out as life force and is lost. If a man is entering a woman without an actual heart and soul connection, and she does not know how to run the energy through her body instead of releasing it, or they both circulate it through connected hearts, she is losing life, health, wealth, and the power to create and materialize realities. He also loses his if the release happens without heart connection because it is unprotected by love. And so the whole act is then a massive siphoning scenario. Most men disconnect sex from true love and end up siphoning women's leaked energy or get siphoned by a female who knows how to consume his energy. Crazy, right? So years ago, I would have seen that as like mumbo jumbo. Like, I don't know what she's talking about besides sex siphoning. Like, I know a little bit about that. So let's break down her post a little bit because there is some truth to this. If the sexual energy is not circulating through the heart or with another in an intimate act, basically saying if you are not doing a certain energetic practice by protecting your heart with love and you climax, you're just throwing away sexual energy. Okay? And what does that do? It takes away your life force. What does that mean? You get older, bitch. You're breaking down more. You're releasing the regenerative properties that may come from utilizing your sexual energy correctly. So, like she said, you lose life, health, wealth, and the power to create and materialize realities, which now that I think about it, it sounds a lot like Kundalini. Whenever you plug yourself into the universe's energy, you get access to all of these things. If a man is entering a woman without an actual heart and soul connection, saying that if the man is not actually in love with the woman or sees her in a relationship sense besides just a sexual sense, then he is also losing that power as well. And then the whole act is a massive sex siphoning scenario. So let's dive into more on what is a sex siphoning scenario. Let's go back to what we talked about in the beginning with all of the Andrew Tater tots, and how they don't want to like jizz and lose all of their energy from a fucking woman, a sexual succubi woman, a succubus. That is what she's talking about. These guys are onto something, but they're also not quite there. They're taking it the wrong route. If anything, they're trying to steal the woman's energy. They're not trying to like merge with the divine and create realities and, you know, tap into the energy of the universe. They're trying to siphon from women. Hence why they tend to sexually abuse women, creating sex traffic rings. That is a very good example of what a sex siphoning scenario can look like. Utilizing other people's sexual energy for your own gain, for an exchange of energy in which you get the better end of the stick. This energy, right, it doesn't just pop up as sex, right? Because the women are having the sex in these like sexual trafficking situations. Because sex just translates to life force, it can translate to almost anything. Hence money, or power, or status, which is what Andrew Tate got as he was basically teaching people how to create a sex trafficking ring themselves while doing it on his own. So that's like a really dark-sided like scenario of how a sex siphoning scenario can turn out, but it can also be as casual sex, just not paying mind to your own energy and giving it up to someone else, which is in no means a slut shame when I say giving it up. Look, I stand for casual sex. Unfortunately, there will always be an exchange of energy, and if one person's heart is in it, the other person is not, which we see with friends with benefit situations a lot of the time, then chances are that it is a sex siphoning scenario. We know there's this whole concept around like women having sex with men, they get emotionally attached just because that's kind of how the hormones work, whereas men don't necessarily have to. Yeah, so sex siphoning can be casual sex. It can also be masturbation. It can be utilizing porn in order to jizz, which is, again, what those manosphere guys were talking about. Even if you're not doing an intimate act with the person right there, and you're watching a video, you're connecting with this person, and you give them your orgasm and your climax, your sexual energy, you're creating an energetic bond with them in the spiritual realm, okay? And what does that do? That drains you of your energy, okay? Because that's a bond you just created, giving them your energy, whether it's of you, money, or your jizz. Look, it's just the truth, guys. I'm going to talk about what you can do in terms of sex with a partner and sex with yourself, masturbation, and energetic practices you can do to, one, prevent you from being siphoned, and then two, being able to utilize that energy to create new realities for yourself. Kind of sex magic in a way that isn't abusive or exploitative. Breaking down her post, the main takeaways that we can take from it is, one, you have to protect your heart with love whenever you're doing an intimate act with another person. When you protect your heart with love, you're making a nod to the universe that it is love and that you're doing a natural human act that transcends the carnal, primal instincts of your body. Another thing is having a good partner. A partner who cares about you, who, not only loves you, but is also there for you on mental, emotional, spiritual, and sexual levels equally. A partnership that enriches you. Why? Because your womb space is important, ladies. It's a portal, and whenever you're creating these energetic bonds with men, in my opinion, it's a lot stickier than it is with men, which is really funny to say. But yeah, there's just yet another portal that you can access so much knowledge and power and creation and manifestation within that men can't. But also it can be manipulated by men, and it can be utilized by men as a source of power themselves. So making sure that your partner, anybody with a vagina, making sure your partner is of the light and somebody who's good for you. That's a really important thing to practice in terms of having safe, energetic sex. And it transcends the carnal, like I said. It's not just about physical sex that I'm talking about here. There are two different energetic practices that I want to talk about. I'll start with the one Zarina mentioned first, which is running your energy. This is an energetic practice that a lot of mystics use just to keep fresh energy coming through their system. And almost in a way, it reminds me of Kundalini, where you're plugging yourself into the universe, so that way you're getting energy from the universe rather than having to generate your own all the time. This is what helps us power our psychic abilities and connections with the spirit world, because if we're just using our human energy, it's very easy to get tired. It's very easy to get burnt out. And because sex is inevitably one of these occultish practices, whether you're aware of it or not, it's very important to make sure you're coming from a clear place, from a pure place. Because inevitably, whether you're aware of it or not, you are creating during this process, whether it's a baby or not, girl, you're creating something. So I'm going to teach you how to run your energy. And I have talked about this before on my TikTok. So if you're interested in my short videos and quick tips and tricks that I've made in the past, go ahead and check that out there, or in my Instagram, which is heyurpsychic at heyurpsychic. heyurpsychic, girl. And you can also, quick self promo actually, you can also head to heyurpsychic.com, spelled the exact same way, heyurpsychic.com, to also grab a psychic reading, and I'd love to work with you guys. So running your energy, here's how it goes. One, you want to ground really, really well. Ground however you feel or see fit. One way that I like doing it whenever running my energy is through imagining vines coming off of your feet and grounding into the earth, and imagining green earth energy coming up through the vine, through your feet, through your legs, thighs, hips, up through your chest, throat, head, and all the way out through the top. And then you want to invite source light, universe light, God, Christ, consciousness, light through the crown chakra, coming all the way up from the heavens, through the top of the head, down to the throat, the chest, hips, legs, shins, out through the feet. And then you want to take a blend of these energies that are already within yourself, and with the breath, bring them and direct them up. Remember, kind of like prana, direct the energy with your breath by breathing all of the energy, the blended, intermingled energies, up through the top of the crown and out through the top of the crown, and then breathe it back in from the root chakra, circling back down to the root chakra, and then up through the top of the crown again, and keep circling that energy. This will ensure that you're kind of keeping your energy fresh all of the time. A lot of the time, it's very easy to get energy stuck, and this kind of helps you keep fresh. This is what she means by running your energy. So, oh God, here we go. Just this morning, I've had the pleasure of demonstrating this practice after doing the deed with my partner. I noticed his energy was on me a lot, but it was kind of floating around, and I just really wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to get just dispersed anywhere, that it was going to be given back to the universe and recycled. Also, that it just wasn't lingering on me all day. As much as I love my partner, we actually accidentally siphoned each other's energy all the time, and I'm really trying to do my best to work on that and not do it as much with these practices. Talking about sex siphoning a little bit, how you know it's actually happening if you actually are being siphoned from is you'll feel brain foggy, you'll feel super ungrounded, and you'll feel really, really tired after doing an act. There are physical and visceral reactions you get from this energy exchange playing out. And inevitably, like if you're getting physical effects, the energetic effects obviously are not that great. So you really want to make sure that you're doing the practices I mentioned so that way you can protect your energy and actually make the best out of it. Stopping the heteronormativity really quick for my same-sex couples, the same thing applies, okay? If you're being siphoned from, it'll feel the exact same way. Brain fog, ungrounded, and overall just more tired. If this is happening, the same thing applies with you. Run your energy, make sure you're running your energy afterwards or before or during, whenever you feel like is right. And then also protect the heart with love and connection with your partner in order to merge with the divine better instead of kind of just exchanging energy or siphoning energy with your partner. So the same thing applies for my gays out there. What I just talked about is really how to retain and protect your sexual energy. But we can go farther than that. We can utilize the energy for manifestation, creation, and regeneration, vitality. This energetic practice is called Ankhing, and it's probably one of the most powerful energetic practices you will ever try, at least as of right now. This practice was so visceral for me that it was undeniable. Like, I just knew that doing energy work and all of the stuff had to be fucking real. It was crazy with how visceral it is. So Ankhing is an energy work that can assist you in manifestation, creation, and regeneration. And the physical effects, so those are some of the energetic effects that it's like, okay, these are some of the benefits that you can get from it. But is it like visceral? Is it, is there any physical evidence of it until later on? Not necessarily. The physical benefits to it in the moment, right as you're doing it, is literally your orgasm can be stronger and longer. Yeah, ladies, if you're used to those 2 to 3 second hits, get fucking ready. You can extend it to like as long as you want, as long as you can keep the energy going. It's crazy, y'all. It's fucking crazy. And it just like, it was crazy. Before I get into the energetic practice, I want to talk a little bit more about the Ankh, the symbol of the Ankh itself. For those of you who are not on YouTube or watching this on the video, the Ankh is an Egyptian symbol. It's an Egyptian cross, if it comes to mind. It is a symbol that represents physical life, eternal life, your life force energy, immortality, death, and reincarnation. It's considered the key of life, and a lot of Egyptian deities are represented with the staff in hand as a representation of their immortality and the ease they have in controlling life. There's a lot of discourse around the shape and the symbolism and what it actually means. It looks like people tend to prefer that it represents immortality, with the loop representing eternal life, and then the cross under the loop representing your time in the physical plane right in this moment that you have right now. But personally, I connect with the sexual connotations of the symbolism more than I do with the like immortality thing. Why? Because of Ankhing. It's so fucking real that it's like crazy. Like it's crazy. And the energy work that you do resembles the shape of an Ankh. So I'm like, okay, this is fucking, it's just crazy how real it is. And that would be that the loop represents the womb, the female energy, and the cross at the bottom represents the male phallus, the male energy, and it together creates life force energy. Isn't that fucking cool? It's so fucking cool. So yeah, this was a practice that was taught in ancient Egyptian mystery schools. The Egyptians loved practicing sex magic. And it honestly feels like a piece of energy work also that's not exploitative. It is merging with the divine and utilizing the divine energies to create with your sexual energy instead of having it siphoned off to random ass people in forms of money or power, leaving you drained. So here's how to do the practice. One, I do want to say really quick, I learned this energetic tip from Elizabeth April, who I do not fuck with anymore, okay? I don't recommend looking up her teachings. For the most part, they really fucked me up. I'm not gonna lie. It really stunted me on my process. But this was a really cool energetic tip and it did work and it does feel real, especially because running the energy is such a basic tip. This is also very similar to running your energy. So what you do is whenever you are about to climax, if you're wanting to climax, to get yourself there, or as you're doing it, you want to breathe in the sexual energy that you're getting from the base of your spine, all the way up through the crown, and then breathe it in through the heart. So breathe it in, out, and in. In, out, and in. And it can be a very intense experience. It's kind of hard to keep the practice up, especially when you're going through such an intense thing like a big O. But that's what you do. So you'll notice whenever you do the practice, it literally makes your orgasm longer and stronger, and it's crazy. What you can even take this further by directing the energy down or up. Okay, and I am not an expert in what that means. This is kind of my interpretation of what this means. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I'm exploring with you guys. But what I believe is that if you direct the energy down and you ground it, it's energy you're wanting to create and materialize on the physical plane. Okay, if you direct the sexual energy down. And then if you direct the energy upwards, like after you're ankhing and you throw it upwards to the heavens, to God, to source. For me, I utilize it to ask God to assist me with certain healings, with divine connection. Obviously, this can be a very intense experience whenever having sex with a partner, and it can be kind of difficult to keep control of or just, I don't know, do with them in the moment. So you gotta practice, me love, and you gotta practice with some good old touching yourself. There's this meme of like, a spiritual person's like what they do on the weekend instead of drinking, and like it starts off with like, I had a self pleasure practice that literally blasted me off to Venus or something. That bitch was not lying. If you're doing this shit, you're gonna be on Venus, girl. You're gonna be on Venus. And look, I'm not saying, I'm sure there is a way. If you combo this with some clairvoyance, I'm sure there's a way to get some crazy shit happening. But it's not like oh my God, I'm gonna astral project out of my body. It's more of like holy shit, you feel like you're on drugs, basically. It feels like, you know what it feels like? Oh my God, and people talk about this all the time. It feels like when you're about to do DMT, or even before death. Like, as we know, orgasm means petite mori, which means little death. And we know that before you die, you get this like huge blast off of DMT. That's exactly what it feels like. It's crazy. I love talking about this shit with you guys. Anyway, so masturbation, right? Okay, give up the porn. It's so, I promise you, you will come stronger, harder if you utilize imagination or your partner, or your own self, your own body. The love in your heart that you have for these people, for yourself, magnifies the experience so much more than a random person or couple online. And then bonus points, you get to use the energy that you make, which is just such a blessing, and it's so powerful, and we have no clue how much. So don't throw away your energy. And masturbation is the perfect time to practice Ankhing and making sure that you're creating and materializing, instead of just throwing away your energy. Oh, and I swear, like, after I do it, I feel stronger. I just feel more like myself and more courageous and more brave. And we all deserve those things, instead of letting because we know that dark forces have a huge handle over sex siphoning. It's a huge way that they get energy to do their own work. And if we're able to cut that energy off from them, we could change the world. I'm serious. We could stop suffering more than it ever has been stopped before. And we can all really step into our power with this practice. That's why I'm sharing this with you guys, because fuck the dark, bro. Fuck a bitch named a demon. What I shared with you just then was sort of a encapsulation of everything I learned about sex, my own experiences with it, what other people have recommended, tips and tricks, and some research. And now I kind of want to get into what I've channeled around it. Each episode, I'm going to do a little section where I just channel some information around all of this. And so, number one, something that my guides want to make very, very clear is that physical sex is not needed to utilize this energy. We think back to Kundalini. Kundalini yoga can really help you hone in on the sexual energy. Fucking chakra meditation, if it's meant to be, could even do the same thing. So know that it's not necessarily about the physical. It's not about diddling yourself. It's more about your breath, the connection with yourself, and energy work. And because it's not so much about the physical act, and it's more about how you feel about it, it's more about how you act about it, make it into a ceremony. Make it into this like ritualistic, sexy thing with some beautiful candles and beautiful textures and some teasing, some talking beforehand. It can really give this very like special and sacred feel to it. Sensuality is what we need more of in this life, and so making it more sacred in that way is beautiful. A grand takeaway from this all is to operate from love when doing it, because that is what this is. It's love. Sex is love. It can be utilized as a means for siphoning and evil and all of this awful stuff, sure. But it is love. It's our nature. We were made to do it. So just fucking do it. We were not just here to use it for babies. We're here to use it for ourselves as well, as empowerment. And the last thing I want to talk about is be intentional with sex. Ask yourself why you're doing it. Are you doing it to fill a void, to assuage some sort of insecurity, or are you doing it from a place of pleasure, of wanting to experience life, explore, and share with your partner? Okay? Ask yourself why you're doing it. And the same goes for masturbation. Are you doing it? Shit, I mean, if you're doing it for stress release, then do that, but don't do it out of a place of unworthiness, because you're infusing that intention into your magic of just having sex. So be really intentional and conscious, like you are with any type of magic, with any type of energy work, because it will only amplify